10 Asian countries that Trump doesn't want in the United States. During Donald Trump's presidency, immigration policy became one of the most controversial and hotly debated topics. While the former president often emphasized a tough stance on illegal immigration, he also took a hard line against legal immigrants from certain countries. This was especially evident in his travel bans, visa restrictions, and rhetoric about national security. In this video, we'll explore 10 Asian countries that Trump appeared to target or exclude during his time in office. Whether through executive orders, diplomatic moves, or campaign speeches, Trump made it clear that immigrants from these nations were not welcome in the United States under his administration. Let's uncover the reasons behind these actions and how they impacted people from these countries. Number 10. Philippines. Though the US and the Philippines have long-standing historical ties, the Trump era introduced new friction. Trump did maintain a friendly relationship with former President Duterte, but his administration still showed signs of limiting Filipino immigration. Filipinos seeking work visas, particularly in the healthcare and service industries, began facing increased scrutiny. At one point, the Trump administration even implemented a ban on certain types of work visas for Filipinos, citing overstays and visa fraud. The decision sparked outrage among Filipino communities in the US who saw it as discriminatory. Despite the strategic alliance between the two countries, Trump's immigration policies made it clear that Filipinos were not immune to his broader efforts to clamp down on immigration from Asia. Number 9. Myanmar, Burma. The Rohingya crisis put Myanmar in the international spotlight during Trump's time in office, yet his administration did little to welcome those fleeing persecution. In fact, the US drastically reduced its refugee intake, and this included Rohingya Muslims escaping genocide. Trump's policies created major hurdles for refugees, and Myanmar nationals were not prioritized for resettlement. Furthermore, some Myanmar nationals already in the US faced deportation or prolonged immigration detention. Despite the global outcry over human rights abuses in Myanmar, Trump's administration did not take significant steps to offer asylum or support. This lack of action sent a strong message: the US under Trump was not a safe haven for those from Myanmar. Number 8. North Korea. While Trump's relationship with North Korea was marked by dramatic shifts, from threats of war to historic meetings with Kim Jong-un, the immigration stance remained firm. North Koreans were part of the original travel ban, and that restriction remained in place throughout his presidency. Despite the headlines about diplomacy and denuclearization talks, Trump never relaxed the immigration policy toward North Koreans. Given the closed nature of North Korea, few citizens even attempted to enter the US, but those who did faced monumental barriers. The justification was again tied to national security and lack of proper vetting procedures. Even humanitarian cases were largely denied. The tough stance reinforced the idea that North Koreans were persona non grata in Trump's America. Number 7. Bangladesh. Though not as publicly criticized as some other countries, Bangladesh still found itself under scrutiny during Trump's presidency. Immigration officials were instructed to apply more rigorous screening to citizens from Bangladesh, particularly those seeking asylum. Reports indicated that Bangladeshis faced higher deportation rates and longer detention periods, especially in border states. Trump's administration did not place a formal ban on Bangladesh, but the treatment of its nationals suggested they were not viewed favorably. The fear was often framed around overstayed visas and alleged misuse of asylum claims. This narrative contributed to the broader theme of discouraging migration from South Asia, and Bangladesh was not exempt from that trend. Number 6. Afghanistan. Afghanistan has been in the international spotlight for decades, and Trump's approach to Afghan immigration reflected deep mistrust. Though he agreed to some evacuations and aid under pressure, Trump consistently emphasized the need to limit Afghan immigration. He warned against allowing refugees and migrants from Afghanistan into the US, citing security concerns. Even those who had assisted American forces or worked for US NGOs found it difficult to gain entry. The special immigrant visa process for Afghans slowed down significantly during his administration. Trump's stance painted Afghans as potential threats rather than allies or victims of war. It showed a clear reluctance to allow Afghans into the country, regardless of their individual circumstances or merits. Number 5. Yemen. Yemen, a country devastated by war and famine, was another target in Trump's travel ban. Despite the humanitarian crisis unfolding there, Trump's administration prioritized perceived security threats over compassion. Yemen was labeled a high-risk country, and its citizens were barred from entering the U.S. The administration cited concerns about terrorism and lack of proper government infrastructure to conduct thorough vetting. This effectively blocked families from reuniting and prevented those fleeing violence from finding refuge in the U.S. The message was clear: it didn't matter how dire the circumstances were, people from Yemen were not welcome under Trump's policies. The human cost of these decisions was immense, as countless lives remained in limbo. Number 4. Pakistan. Pakistan faced increasing scrutiny during the Trump years, with the president frequently accusing the country of harboring terrorists and not doing enough to combat extremism. This rhetoric translated into policy when the U.S. placed travel and visa restrictions on Pakistani citizens. Although Pakistan wasn't on the official travel ban list, consular officers were instructed to apply tougher screening procedures for Pakistani applicants. Students and professionals from Pakistan reported more visa rejections and longer processing times. Trump's statements often portrayed Pakistan as a problematic ally, making it evident that he didn't trust the flow of immigrants coming from there. This skepticism created a hostile atmosphere for many Pakistanis who wished to visit, study, or live in the United States. Number 3. Iraq. Although Iraq was initially included in Trump's travel ban, it was later removed from the list. However, that didn't mean Iraqis were off the hook. The U.S. continued to apply strict vetting procedures to Iraqi nationals, especially those seeking asylum or special visas. Ironically, many of those affected were individuals who had worked with American forces during the Iraq War, risking their lives to support U.S. missions. Yet under Trump's administration, these people often face long delays, rejections, or deportation threats. The justification was often tied to national security, but critics saw it as a betrayal. The administration's actions sent a clear message that Iraqis, even those who had proven their loyalty, were not particularly welcome in the U.S. Number 2. Syria. Syria became another primary target in Trump's travel ban policies. As the Syrian civil war created one of the largest refugee crises in modern history, many countries opened their doors to those fleeing violence. However, Trump's stance was different. He expressed concerns that Syrian refugees could pose a security risk, claiming they might include terrorists. As a result, the U.S. stopped accepting Syrian refugees for a period and implemented extreme vetting measures. Trump's statements often suggested that people from Syria were dangerous and should be kept out at all costs. This narrative effectively shut the door on thousands of innocent civilians seeking safety, marking Syria as one of the countries Trump clearly didn't want represented in America. Number 1. Iran. Iran has long been a contentious point in U.S. foreign policy, and under Trump, the relationship reached new lows. Trump pulled the U.S. out of the nuclear deal and reimposed crippling sanctions, blaming Iran for sponsoring terrorism across the Middle East. These political tensions spilled over into immigration policies. Iranian citizens found themselves on the list of those banned from entering the U.S. due to what Trump labeled as national security threats. Many Iranians, including students, scientists, and artists, were denied entry or faced increased scrutiny simply because of their nationality. Even those with valid visas experienced difficulties. The administration's messaging painted Iranians with a broad brush, often associating the entire population with the actions of their government, making it clear that Trump didn't want them in the country. Trump's immigration policies were rooted in a vision of national security and cultural preservation that often singled out specific nations, particularly from Asia. Whether it was through outright bans, increased vetting, or negative rhetoric, people from these countries were made to feel unwelcome. The message was unmistakable: Trump wanted to tightly control who could come to the United States, and for many Asians, the doors were closing fast. These policies had real human consequences, affecting families, students, workers, and refugees. As immigration remains a central issue in American politics, the legacy of Trump's approach continues to shape lives around the world.